In Vietnam, you have to sworn in the Communist Party, but I did not because we were prepping to come to the U.S. And then, yes, we were discriminated against.
So my parents divorced when I was 8, and my mom, she didn't have a formal education. We ended up, government assistance, and I kind of grew up in a place where I didn't really feel like I fit in.
You can do, be, and have anything you want. You just have to go out there and earn it and work for it. And then there's people out there to support you. We still have family in Vietnam to this point who they watch our live and they just envy and they just say, I wish, we have half of what you have here.
I'm Scott DeVore. My close friends call me Free. Welcome to the Free Factor podcast. I have some special guests. I have the Pham sisters in the building. I want to introduce them. We have Tina Pham. We have Tracy Pham. Say hello, ladies. Welcome to the show.
Hello, everyone. Hello, Scott.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Scott.
Absolutely. So this is a special episode for me. So as I've mentioned multiple times, I'm half Asian. My mom's from Vietnam. These ladies are Vietnamese, and I was really excited. I met them just recently. The other day, we had a nice lunch over at Seasons 52. We're in Jacksonville, Florida. So this is out by the St. John's Town Center. Had a nice lunch. We talked about entrepreneurship, business, a lot of relatable things with real estate and just entrepreneurship in general. And I thought, hey, I'm going to see if they're open to coming on the show. And they agreed. So here we are going to film this episode.
Yay. Thank you.
So welcome. So one of the things that you mentioned before the show was introducing me in Vietnamese, yes, which I thought was awesome. I was already thinking that. So the fact that you mentioned that as something to do, I thought was pretty cool. So go ahead and, introduce the show in Vietnamese, however you want to do it.
Sure. Well, I hope that the other half Vietnamese of yours will understand some of what I'm about to say. But hello, everyone. I'm going to say a few words in Vietnamese so that our customers from Golden Pen Realty can get to know Scott and understand a little bit more about Scott. Tina và Tracy xin mến chào quý khách hàng yêu mến và quý đồng hương gần xa. Theo những khách hàng ở Jacksonville, Florida thì đã biết đến cho công ty bất động sản Golden Pen của chúng em. Và nếu như quý anh chị ở tiểu bang khác chưa biết thì hôm nay sẽ biết được chút đỉnh về Golden Pen. Thì chúng em đã thành lập được 5 năm nay và Tina đã làm real estate được 10 năm. Và Tracy Pham là my sister, chị của em và cũng là agent chung. Vào một ngày đẹp trời, Tina và Tracy đã quen được anh rất là trẻ tuổi và đẹp trai, rất là tài năng, Scott DeVore, và biết được anh là một người rất là giỏi trong các lĩnh vực business, và business của anh thì cũng giống tương tự như Tina, đó là về bất động sản. Ngoài ra anh Scott cũng là một cái general GC là đã có thể build được nhà, và anh cũng là một licensed roofer mà anh đã làm việc tại thành phố Jacksonville, tiểu bang Florida gần 10 năm nay. Và hôm nay thì Tina được hân hạnh gặp anh và làm một cái podcast cùng anh. Thì rất là cảm ơn anh và muốn quý vị biết thêm về business của anh và con người của anh, thì Tina rất là hạnh phúc và vui mừng đã được cái partnership này. Dạ, cảm ơn rất nhiều. So.
Awesome. I knew exactly what you said. I was just joking. Okay. I think I told you when we had lunch, I know like one Vietnamese word.
Well, we're going to teach you. We'll make sure we take care of that.
I had so many people who I've befriended over years, Vietnamese people, and they're like, I got to teach you so you can speak to your mom. And I never put in all the effort I needed to learn. But one day it's on my wish list.
Our goal is to teach you how to read a menu. So that way, when you go to the Vietnamese restaurant, and you can know what to order, like pho.
Yeah,
and
I can do pho, and I can say pho Thai. I can do my pho with my steak or my pho guy. So I know with the chicken.
I think Tina forgot to mention it in Vietnamese that Scott là người Việt, mẹ là người Việt, ba là người Mỹ. Và Scott sinh ra ở Mỹ, nhưng mà Scott nhìn không có giống người Việt chút nào. Ngay lúc đầu thì Tracy với lại Tina cũng bị nhầm. Scott là người Mỹ 100%, nhưng mà Scott là half Vietnamese,
Half American.
Half American. Mẹ của Scott là người Việt Nam ở tại Jacksonville của mình. Và nghe nói là mẹ của Scott cũng đi nhà thờ Công giáo, cho nên có thể là các anh chị trong cộng đồng Công giáo tại Jacksonville cũng có thể là biết mẹ của Scott đó. Dạ, Hy rất là trẻ và tài năng, phải không quý vị?
Awesome. Now, I think I caught on a little bit of what you said. You know, you hurt my feelings a little bit when we had lunch.
What did
when
I
we first
say?
met. You said, I don't see any Vietnamese in you. That made me sad.
We just said that again.
That's what you just said? Yeah. So I know.
No, we're just saying it for the people who don't recognize you, that we feel the same way.
Yeah.
But after today, I think everyone will know who you are, Scott DeVort. So.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. And I know on your website you have a family, so it's a play on your last name, Phamily.
Yes.
And you guys are sisters, and you have a brother too that you guys do business with. Tell me a little bit about your brother. What's his role?
So a little bit about our family structure. If you don't mind, I'm going to share a little bit about our family, how we came to America.
Oh, yeah. I'd love to hear the story.
Thank you. So our father was one of the Vietnamese soldiers that fought against the communist government. And after the war was over, he was captured and put in jail.
Oh, wow.
For 3.5 years. And finally, when they released him, so basically not just him, but all the soldiers that they released, they would put on a blacklist, and he couldn't get a job. For us as children of the soldiers on the blacklist, could not go to college. And we had a really rough, background.
What year was he captured?
That was 60.
Joined the military, I think, in the 68.
Okay.
And then he was in there for a couple of years, and then because he was a teacher back then, so during the very peak time they drafted him, and then he joined, and then he left. But then they captured him in 1974. That's when my brother was just like a few months old.
Okay.
So
were you all born?
No,
not yet. Okay.
I was born after he came back.
Okay.
But when he was captured, my brother was only a few months old.
Okay. Okay.
So
they released him after my brother was about 3 years old. So the entire time, my brother didn't know who our dad was when he was growing up.
Okay.
So then, knowing that, my father said, "There's no way he could have lived this life and have a future for us."
Yeah.
So he decided to find a way to smuggle. We were very poor. We live in a farm. There was no running water. There was no electricity. Every day we had to go down to the river, take a bucket of water up to use.
Yeah.
And everything was wood. So.
And this is south of Saigon,
yes,
where you guys are from?
Yes.
Okay.
We used to live in a small town called Cái Tàu, close to the ferry.
That was teaching in Saigon. So when they released him, he could not live in a big city, just like every other soldier who got released. They cannot. They have to move to a very far out. Into the farm.
Okay.
So we had a farm back in the Mekong Delta. That's where my granddad, his father, land. So he has to move back there and became a farmer.
Yeah.
A teacher turned into a farmer. So the life was a little rough. And for
what was the
town called?
Well, what was he farming? Was it
rice? We just have family farm. Like we were just rice.
Rice.
We have rice, and we have guava, garden fruit, things like that. But it was just bananas, all kind of
Was he selling
fruits.
it in a market, or just for what you guys grew, what you guys were eating for yourself?
Just enough for groceries, but not as a manufacturing or anything big scale. So he was just trying to find a way to leave the country.
Yeah.
So he went on foot, and left from Vietnam, because I was older than her, so I could remember it vividly what happened the night before he planning on that.
Yeah. So what year was that, and how old were you?
It was, I think, I'm getting emotional when I talk about it as well, because I was crying that night.
Yeah, I bet.
And I think it was 1986. That's when he was planning.
Okay.
And usually before he goes somewhere out of town, he would like cut his nails, cut his hair, get a haircut and trim his nails and everything. So the night before he left, he packed his clothes. He had a haircut, and he sat there and
he used a rocker to sleep.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
So
it
was
his baby.
I was like 8 years old, I think. So when he did that, I was like, I sensed something.
You knew he was going, but he didn't tell. He didn't say.
Yeah, we didn't know where he was going. We just knew he was leaving.
Yeah, we knew he just saying he told me he was just going out of town.
Yeah.
And then he left very early in the morning, and didn't hear from him for like 6 months later.
Okay.
As I learned about the story is when we moved to the U.S. We're old enough, and he would share us the journey. He lived the journey.
Yeah.
He told us that he left on foot to go to Phnom Penh, Cambodia.
Yeah.
And then from Phnom Penh, he stayed for a couple of weeks to blend in as a Cambodian. He was dark enough already, prepping for it in Vietnam, like work out in the sun to get really dark, So when they got to Phnom Penh, they would get on a boat to go from Phnom Penh to Thailand.
Okay.
And this was a brand new boat that fit about 8 or 10 people, but they put about 20 people on that.
Okay.
So it was overloaded on that boat. And they went from Phnom Penh to Thailand.
Okay.
And he got to Thailand refugee camp safely, and he stayed there for, I think, 6 months, just do the background check and everything. And then they sent him to Thailand to learn English and getting ready to come to the U.S. And for him picking Florida, because he had done a lot of research and knowing that he wanted to live in a warmer state.
Yeah.
And somewhere not so many Vietnamese, I'm sorry. But they say he doesn't want us to not blend in with the American culture.
Right.
That's his intentions, that moving somewhere warm and somewhere that we could blend in with the American culture faster.
Yeah, absolutely. I relate to that so much.
Yeah.
So who was taking care of you when you're okay?
Yeah. Okay. So mom was the one who took care of all of us when he left. My brother was only in 8th grade. I was in 3rd grade, and she was just in 1st grade. Oh. So she technically did not remember all of that childhood with our dad until we came here to the U.S.
Okay.
I was in 9th grade, and my brother went to college, and she was 7th grade when they reunited.
Yep.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Now, after what year was the fall of Saigon? Like when 75?
Yeah.
Okay.
75.
So my mom, she's from Saigon, and unfortunately my mom, she doesn't talk a lot about any of it. She did when we were younger. So what I try to remember from her past, and she lives in Jacksonville, but every time I try to ask her, she gets really emotional and she doesn't want to share. So I know very little. I remember very little about her story, but I know that. So I was born in 79. My brother was born in 78 here in the US. Mm-hmm. She got married in 78 to my dad. So I'm thinking from what I understand, they came right after the fall of Saigon. Mm-hmm. So maybe right around 75. And, my mom was adopted in Vietnam by Vietnamese people who I think were very well off. And, some of the family actually lives here in Jacksonville. Mm-hmm. And, so fall of Saigon, 75. And you were born in 79. Okay. So we're the same age. That's cool. It's a great year, 79. But what was it like? I know you had to live in the countryside because of, his name was on a list of, fighting against the Viet Cong and, being part of the South Vietnamese army. But what was, did you like get discriminated against? Did they treat you bad?
Definitely.
Or was everyone in your community kind of the same? All former, South Vietnamese soldiers raising families, or was there a lot of tension?
For Tina, because she was in elementary school back then, went to school with my mom, and having my mom being her teacher,
She
my
was
mom
my first grade teacher.
my mom was teachers in Vietnam too, and she always went to school with my mom, so everybody know who Tina was. So of course nobody wanted to be treated
picking
on her.
Yeah.
But as I was in middle school then, and my brother was in high school then, yes, we were discriminated against because on the background on our background, the application to school, that you have to list what your dad occupation was.
Yeah.
Right. So technically, I could not list my dad as a teacher or a former teacher, anything, or I had to list him as a farmer, even though he no longer here in Vietnam with us. We had to hide his background as a farmer, but everybody in town knew who my dad was.
Yeah.
So they asked us to sworn in. As like in Vietnam, they have that thing like when you get to middle school, you have to sworn in the Communist Party.
Okay.
To earn your badge.
Yeah, gotcha.
You're getting inducted.
So you you're getting inducted. So you had to recite something,
yes.
pledge your allegiance to the Communist Party. Okay.
So they asked us to do that, but I did not, because we were prepping to come to the U.S. and I was only in 7th grade or 6th grade.
Yeah.
And I just say, no, I can't. My dad wrote letters home to us saying that we cannot do that, because if we do that, we cannot come to the U.S. We would not get clearance.
Yeah.
So I didn't understand anything. I just listened to what he said. So I did not. And guess what? They were trying to get 100% of the class to induct it, but I was the only exception, didn't do it. So my class did not get 100%.
Yeah.
That's
so noble. What were you like? What was it like?
So of course my class did not win the contest or anything, because I was the only person.
They give you a certificate. That's it. That's really to recognize that you a great performer or whatever.
But then they called you out in front of the whole school, saying that that person or Tracy did not sworn in, blah blah blah,
because of her family background. It makes you feel really bad.
And so I told the whole school. I told the teacher in charge. I said, well, the reason I'm not doing that because I'm coming to America soon. So that shut him down. And the next year, of course, I did not sworn in again. So for the whole 2 years, 3 years, 6th, 7th, 8th grade. And my brother was 8th, 9th, 10th grade, all of us. And both of us, our classes, never got any award at all from the school.
Just to do that, man, it takes a lot of courage. That's you were the only one in your class not to do that. That's pretty phenomenal.
My mom had to come down to the school and fight for us.
Yeah.
Because my mom being a teacher in the system, she came down, talked to the principal and say, stop picking on my kids. Because me and my brother were in school and she was a little younger. So she had to put her foot down and came and talked to the principal, say, leave my children alone.
Now, you said something, your dad picked Florida because there wasn't a lot of Vietnamese people, wanted you guys to assimilate. So my mom, when she came, so this is what I remember from my mom as a child, is the reason why she didn't teach us to speak any Vietnamese is she wanted us to be American. She thought America was freedom and she wanted her kids to be free Americans. That was really big for her. She did try to teach us when we were a little bit older, like 8 or 9. And by that time, we just thought what she was saying was funny and we would just laugh at the words and everything. But yeah, I definitely relate to that story. So you say you don't really remember a whole lot. What's any memory of a child in Vietnam? Something that might stick out.
I remember when I came home from school one day, that could probably be maybe a week or 2 after my dad had already gone. Because I don't remember, the night like she described because she used to, I was my mom baby and she was daddy baby girl, so we would go to sleep and, I'd be spending time with my mom. So I didn't really remember all of that. But I remember going to school. I walked to school and I came home and we were on foot, right? We didn't have bike or we didn't have any buses. So I remember one day I came home and I say, where's Dad? And I looked around because usually he stay home. He doesn't go to work or anything. He work in the farm. And my mom said, oh, he went out of town for a job or go to work. And then the next day, and I say, "Where's Dad?" And I kept asking, like maybe like 4 or 5 times, and then my mom got mad. She's like, "I already told you, he's out. You know, he's not gonna come back anytime soon. I'll let you know when he's back." And I was like, "Okay," but months go by, and then like a year later, we moved. And then she started showing us those pictures that he took from Thailand.
Okay.
And that's like 6 months or 9 months later when he actually made it to the refugee camp in Thailand, and he sent back pictures that he's safe. And I remember I said, "That I thought that, you know, went to work," and she said, "Yeah, he's in Thailand." And at 6 years old, you know, I had no idea what that is.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
So I did not see him until December 1993.
Thailand eventually. Did they treat you like, did they like try to throw you guys, like your mom in jail or anything?
No.
They
I
just,
think we were using my mom background as the teacher because we were sort of an outstanding family, a role model family in the town because my mom was a teacher and teaching all their kids.
yeah.
You know, so
Gotcha.
we got away with that, not being mistreated much.
Are you familiar with the North Korean lady named Yeonmi Park?
Yes.
Yeah, her story is pretty phenomenal. I've read both of her books. I'll touch into that later, and as we're sitting down. So, you saw your dad for the first time 7 years later.
Yeah.
How did you guys get out?
Once my dad became the U.S. citizen. So with the U.S. American citizens, you have the right to sponsor your direct family. Back in the day, that's immigration law back then.
Okay.
So as soon as he came here, he settled. He got a job as a chef, a cook at a Chinese restaurant. He worked and saved money so that he could buy our tickets, airplane tickets. And he had to complete application and promise to the U.S. government that he's not going to need any of their assistance and that he's want to sponsor all of his children and his wife as his direct family. So as soon as the U.S. government approved of that, all he needed to do is just file it through the embassy, and the Vietnamese government say, "Okay, you get to go."
Okay.
So we just got on the airplane and flew over.
Okay. Yeah. Now tell me, all right, so you know it's happened. How long did you know, like, okay, it's finally ready to happen? You know, he's getting the airline tickets. What was that like? And tell me, I'm assuming you're excited about.
We didn't know about it. My mom didn't say anything. We knew we had to go back and forth from our town to Saigon to do
Interviews.
medical screening and everything. It took, I think, about a year and a half for the initial screening and then interviewing. We were minor back then. So, and then the final screening of our medical, that's when we passed, then we know that we could come, you know, with all the blood work, all that stuff.
Okay.
So it's the duration about 2 years, but we didn't know why we were there. We didn't know we were doing it to come to the U.S. because we were afraid that we might fail and not able to come. So until we had the clearance, the visa, my dad bought a ticket. That's when my mom broke the news to everybody and told us to go ahead and pull out your transcript and stuff, you know, submit everything to school to move. So within that, I think it's less than 2 months that we left the school.
I think I can remember I was actually more excited about not going to school anymore than coming here because I hated going to school. I dreaded going to school. I had to walk, you know, like 2 miles. It was a long walk. I mean, and it was hot and humid and rainy or whatever, but I just like, yay, I don't have to go to school anymore. And my mom said, "Yeah, we're going to see Dad." And I said, "Okay," but I was so excited that I don't have to go to school anymore because we were leaving.
Yeah, I think we left, we stopped going to school around beginning of November. And then we flew out here on December the 16th, and we arrived in Jacksonville December the 18th. So this December marked 30 years.
30 years.
Wow.
Yes.
That's, oh man, 30 years.
30 years.
That's crazy.
We're going to have to celebrate it.
I know, it's 30 years.
We'll transition to the now life in the States. But before we do that, just a couple more questions about your childhood in Vietnam. Was there any more like violence after the war ended, or like did you see, or was it everything just like kind of, you know, whatever, chill?
We were, for me, I was too young to know or to see because we live in the country. So technically, everybody knows everybody, and it's a small town, so it was not violence as in, but as like fighting or anything. But because the communists have everything very contained, just like I said, whenever you leave town, you have to report the normal citizen too, not just the people on the blacklist. So they have everything contained. But the only thing that I remember is they exchange currency. They did it like for like 2 or 3 times. I remember they did it once during my lifetime back in Vietnam.
Okay.
Like they exchange currency to wipe out the rich, and you exchange, you exchange.
Right.
And that's the only thing I remember.
The Vietnamese citizen do not have the right to bear arms. You do not have the right to own any guns. The only people who have guns are the police and the army. And not all the police officers now have guns, only the captain.
Did you have any experience with Americans in Vietnam? Like soldiers or anything?
We were too young to. They already left the country in like starting. They pull out in 1968. And I wasn't born yet, but after that, like 1975, nobody came.
The last thing I want to ask now, you mentioned it was hot and rainy and humid, but what did you love about like just your country?
Because it was nice that everybody knows everybody. And also funny is that since my mom was the teacher of the town, everybody knew who we were. So we had to live up in a good way. We had to live up to the standard, the expectations, being the kid, being the children of a teacher. So people respected us, loved us everywhere we went. Everybody knew who we were. Okay. So in a way, that's a good thing. We feel like celebrities, we were like, the celebrity kids.
I remember being able to swim in the river, and she almost killed me, I was learning how to swim, and we had no floats. We were so poor. So we cut up. Stop laughing. You almost killed me. We cut up this banana trunk because it float when you throw that banana trunk in the river. So it flow, right? And she was swimming and she said, jump, jump. Then she would hand me the tree. And as I stand there and I aim, right? I'm like, how old was I?
5, 6,
6. Maybe. As I aim, I say, okay, if I jump this hard, I'm going to catch it because she was already floating on it. Okay. I jumped. And guess what she did? She pulled it away. So I sunk. Oh, wow. And I was just screaming. I got scared and I screamed, and I remember drinking the water and then just up and down. And I don't think the water was that deep, but I didn't know how to swim. Anyway, I thought I was about to die. And then I felt an arm wrap on my belly and pull me off. And guess who it was? It was my brother.
Your brother, okay.
My brother came home from school early that day for some reason. He had a sixth sense. So he said he's supposed to go play soccer with his friends every day after school. Okay. On that day, he said, somehow I don't feel good. So I went straight home. And he was watching while she was telling me to jump. And he said, I knew she's going to pull that and you're going to sink. So he just ran over and jumped into the river and trying to grab me and save me. And she got on the shore and sat there and cried about it.
I was so scared. I didn't know what to do, so I was crying and I didn't think that I had the voice to scream for help because that's how scared I was. But she's
just being a kid, right? So, but she almost killed me twice. But I'll tell you on the next episode how she's trying to kill me the next time. Okay, but also climbing trees. We had many fruit trees, so I was able to climb and get logans and lychees and stuff like that. And I mean, when you're a kid, what do you do? Climb trees, right?
Yeah.
That was awesome
for
too.
Sure.
Yeah.
I go and pick, when they harvest the rice out in the rice field and they flip. We had water buffalo that would go around flip the land. The land instead of tractor to flip the land, we have water buffalo with their blades and go and flip that.
Those crickets.
Yes.
Those crickets that make noise. You can follow them and then pick the crickets.
Yeah, so we follow them flipping the land and
mud crabs. Picking up mud crabs.
We pick up the crickets and then we sell them to other kids at school.
To fight. Cricket fights.
They do cricket fights at school.
No.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
it was
so cool.
And then we get to pick snails and those mud crabs and stuff. So that's a lot of fun. Get all muddy and dirty.
Yeah. What was the topography? Was it flat or was it hilly?
We live in the Mekong Delta, so it's very muddy and with all the river canals, and so we surrounded by water. And back then, they did not build any dams, anything to block out the water from up north. So, like September around, that's when we get flooded. You know, the whole plains down the Mekong would get flooded, and we would rise our bed, everything in the house up.
Yeah.
And we would literally sit on our bed in the house, like, or if you go out, you would be up to your waist kind of water.
How long would that flood? Like, how long would it be like that?
About 2 weeks prime, and then it would eventually go down. But every time it flood like that, there more fish, more everything come into your own land, to your own little lake, your own little canal that you have reserved, you know. So then when the water withdraw, then eventually a couple months later, you have more fish, more food in your own little land. Yeah. So
I remember trying to go get little mud clams too. You know how you have the regular sea clams? Mm-hmm. There's like these little mud clams. They're like this big. Mm-hmm. And
mussels.
Yeah, and mussels. So we would walk when the river is low tide, and you can actually walk on it, and you can watch and see where the little bubble come out of the mud, and then you stick your finger there and pull it out, and you catch these baby clams, and we'll be in the mud for like hours and come home and all dirty, and that will be our dinner, you know. Mm-hmm. So that's what I remember.
Now, so Vietnam was, I don't even say colonialized or whatever. By the French.
Yeah.
Do you remember any French influence? So my last name is Devore, which is a French last name. So I've met Vietnamese people over the years, and I tell them half Vietnamese and tell my last name, and they think there might be some connection with that, but there is zero connection with that for me. But was there any French connection like that you remember? Like, did they help with the cuisine? So that's what I
don't know, but for my granddad generation, like my mom, father, he was a French teacher at school, and same thing with my dad's side. So technically, our grandparents, they were mostly educated or learned from the French. So they were very much, if you were an educator or something, you very much got influenced by them. But as for my mom generations, a little bit, they still have the French influence in them. Yeah. For the food, for the etiquette, the way you carry yourself, all of that thing, they still very much French influence.
Do you know the history of pho? Where pho come from?
Oh, I don't.
You don't?
Yeah. You gonna tell me?
I'm gonna tell you.
I'd like to know. I'm very interested.
So supposedly pho was created for the Vietnamese, or the Vietnamese chef created pho. However, pho was created because of the French. Why? Because back then the Vietnamese are very poor. We don't have money when we can't just cut up a whole cow or slaughter the cow and just eat the steak and throw away everything, right? But when the French came, and that's what the French wanted to eat, just steaks. They don't want to eat anything else of the cow. Mm-hmm. So the chef that was catering to the French, they say, wow, we said, what are we going to do with all this waste? We got tendons, we got tripes, we got all of these the bones.
Yeah.
So they took all of the waste from the cow that was not being used by the French people, and they say, I'm going to create it into some dish. So there you go. They turned all of that into pho.
Man, that's so awesome.
Yes.
Now, do you eat the tripe? Do you eat everything, the tendon? Like, is that how you eat your pho? Yeah. So I used to. I don't eat it as much. Like I just don't do the tripe.
I love the tendon though.
Yeah, I love the tendon. Yeah.
But the other part, if you don't prepare it right, it don't smell right.
I prepare and I cook. I only eat what I prepare. I don't really eat other people.
She makes really good pho.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah. Maybe when she make it, then you can.
Yeah,
you can try
I'll have you and my mom like go toe to toe. We'll have a competition who makes it the best. So let's move on to now. You're in Jacksonville. Yes. Is that you came directly to Jacksonville? Yes. Tell that story. You're coming off the airplane, getting here. I guess seeing your dad for the first time. Was he waiting for you at the airport?
Yes. Scary for me. I was 12 and it was cold. I remember we landed in San Francisco and we didn't know how to turn the water on at the hotel because it's hot and cold and we didn't know how to turn, and we didn't even know that there's the faucet here and then there's a shower. So that's how like country we were.
Yeah.
So we were trying to figure that out, and we spent the night in San Francisco before we can fly to Jacksonville.
Okay.
But when we got here, my dad was at the gate waiting for us, and he was so excited, but I barely remember him, and she was crying, my brother was crying, my mom was crying, and I was like, hi. But I starting to, get to know him and talk to him as the
Did
years
anyone
go
take
by.
any pictures of that when you guys met?
I don't think we did. We didn't. I don't think
we didn't have
ever-
iPhone back then.
We didn't
No
have
iPhone.
iPhone back in '93, and I don't think we had anybody came and take picture for us.
Yeah.
It's just another couple of friends who came with him to greet us because like
Yeah.
midnight when we landed in
Mhm.
December, and this was so cold back then.
Yeah.
We're not as cold here anymore, but it was really cold then. And for us, went straight from Vietnam here. It's a totally different
Yeah.
climate
It's a
change.
shock. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you get enrolled in school right away? Like, so were you,
After
did you know
Christmas,
any English?
No.
None. Okay. So what was that? How did you get assimilated?
After Christmas, our dad took us to the Duval Public School Board to enroll us, and because we were living over on University Boulevard North, so the only middle school that would have the special program for foreign or immigrant students were the Fort Caroline Middle School. They had the ESO program, so we lived on university, but I had to take the bus to go from there all the way to Fort Caroline to attend Fort Caroline Middle School. And then she went to Inglewood because Inglewood had the program there.
Okay.
And
It's funny because he didn't know where we were going to go to school. So he saw a Christian school across from the apartment where we lived.
the private Christian
He
school.
was just looking for apartment near a school.
Yeah.
Right. So he saw a school and a daycare across from the apartment.
He thought we could go
He
there.
thought that we could go to that school. So he rented that apartment right there the day off that he went to pick us up from the airport. Right.
Mhm.
So he excited that we just walked to school.
Yeah.
So he didn't
Now you're
know.
taking buses
Yes.
all
So
across
he
town.
didn't know until we went to the school and register and everything. Say no, she's a high schooler. She's gonna go to Inglewood, and she's a middle schooler. She's gonna go to Fort Caroline, which is 1 hour bus ride for me every morning.
I too.
And
Yeah.
for her, it was middle school. They started later for high school. I started early,
Yeah.
so I had to get on a bus at 6 in the morning, and which means I had to get up at 5:30 to get ready for school.
Yeah.
So it was a long ride, and he regretted it. He said, "I didn't know. I'm sorry."
But we, with middle school, the school we went to, there were pretty much a bunch of kids that didn't speak any English, but we couldn't speak each other English. I mean, languages, because there was Filipinos, there was Cambodian, there was Chinese, there was all the immigrant kids were put in the same classroom, but we couldn't talk.
Yeah.
We couldn't speak English and we couldn't speak each other languages. So I had no friends. And so we had to learn English real fast.
Yeah.
So within 6 months,
That's incredible
6 months.
that you can learn English that fast. Where, I mean, not that I've 100% tried to learn like Vietnamese or Spanish,
Yeah.
but just how you could do that.
No choice, right? So I remember getting up early to get ready for school, and Barney. I was
Yeah.
watching
Okay.
Barney, singing the song "I Love You, You Love Me" the first time, and I just understand those two sentences. But 6 months later, I could understand the entire song, and I say, "Oh wow, I understand the song. That means
Yeah.
I understand English better." But it took me 6 months to be able to communicate and share with my friends or my teachers. And this kid is picking on me, or this kid is trying to copy my homework and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But that's how long it
I
took
think
me.
because our English teacher has the skill set that taught us from the basics and the way that we learn from them. we could pick up faster. Technically, they understood exactly what we're saying to them, even though we didn't exactly know what we were trying
Just
to.
a few keywords,
yes.
then they will know what we wanted to say.
So that's how we picked up so fast. And I think also because we try to translate using the dictionary. Back then, we did not have the electronic dictionary, so we would actually big old dictionary at home. We would like
pages, we flip through.
Pages. We self-taught. We have 2 whiteboard and 2 big one American war map and 1 war map in our house. So instead of having pictures of
that's our wall decorations.
Yes, back then we had Britney Spears, Justin Timberlake, and sings all of that famous. Our
dad was like, "No, you're gonna learn the map. You're gonna learn where everything is." And then he say, "Put all the words, vocabulary words that you don't know and you want to learn, and then put a definition by it." So then every week we would learn like 10, 20 words, and then we'll erase it and we'll put something new up there.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. What your mom, so your mom was without your dad for that many years. Were they happy to be back together?
It was an adjustment, I think. My mom is a very independent woman. She took care of us, the whole family, back when my dad was here. We were self-sufficient economically. Financially, we try to sell food and everything, snacks to the kids at school and things like that. So we self-sufficient. And when we came here, it was a shock for her because she had to answer to him in a way that because she did not work, she did not make money. And everything we had to rely on him. And for him being a typical Vietnamese man, say, what do you know? So technically, she took away her decision-making process just based on her lacking experience here in the U.S. and not able to make money. So I felt bad for her that she just focused on us, the kids, the family, cooking, cleaning, and she got very frustrated. She took it out on us, of course, but after a while, my dad was saying, okay, now you go to school. So he wanted my mom to go to school to learn some English before he allowed her to go to work. So she spent at least 3 years at the FCCJ learning English.
Gotcha.
And then finally she said, that's it. I live here for 10 years now. I need a job. I cannot stay at home. And so, but she didn't drive. So for us, had to take her around to go to work and for us to go to school ourselves. So we had to coordinate around her schedule and our schedule to take her to go to work. And that is when, even though she was tired, but I knew she was happy because she made her own money.
Yeah.
She's a very independent and strong-willed person.
Yeah,
so.
I get that. It's like my mom.
Yeah.
100% like my mom. When did you start meeting any other Vietnamese people in Jacksonville? Like when you first got here, or did it take a while for you to find the community?
I think when we landed here, there was probably 10, 15 families literally in Jacksonville.
Yeah.
Some of them went to the temple, some of them went to churches, and they came to visit, a few of them. But because Jacksonville is so big and everyone living far away and trying to see everyone on the weekend is very difficult. So we somewhat handle everything ourselves. We didn't have any Vietnamese friends growing up. We were in that apartment complex. The 2 young boys that next door to us trying to play with us, but we scared because we didn't speak any English, so we never came out of the house to play with them. The only Vietnamese friends we really had was we went to school, but those kids live on the other side of town.
Yeah.
So we don't really have many Vietnamese friends that we kind of hang out after school.
Yeah.
So it's very far
back
away.
then, our community center would be the grocery store.
And the temple.
Yeah, and the temple. If you go to temple or churches, that's your community center. Because if we went to the grocery store on the weekend, that's when all the news from. We
love going to the grocery store because we get to see other people and we can talk to them.
Yes, we can get the news from them, or they hear gossip and stuff like that. That is the things that we hear. Because back then, I guess we were not involved around other people, so we did not have call them and talk to them or things like that.
But the community is quite small still.
Yeah.
Like I say, we just grew Vietnamese, the Vietnamese community just grew, I believe, within the last 5 to 10 years. But way before that, we can name how many families that have been here with us for the last 30 years. Like right now, I can name it to you.
Yeah.
And I know,
All of them.
the parents will know all the parents, the kids will know all the kids, and the grandkids know all the grandkids.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
that's how small it was.
Yeah. What was it like? Because I want to transition because you guys are both Gators. Went to UF, right?
Yeah.
What any other stories you want to tell about middle school, high school before you got to Florida? If not, then you tell those stories and then tell how you got into Florida.
Oh.
And what that was like.
For me, I went to high school here. I started 9th grade here at Inglewood, and for it because it ESL, English Second Language School. So graduated there. Could not get into college right away because of our English deficiency. So I had to apply for FCCJ. Spent 2 years there just so then we can learn more English and get all the prereq classes out of the way, even though we were straight A students, but we still did not have that confidence, So got scholarship and everything, and we went to Florida as a junior.
Yeah.
So I finished it there with my BA in linguistics and teaching English as a second language, just so I can come back and be a teacher like my other teacher who inspired me. And then after that, instead of going straight to work, I say, no, I don't know what I need to do. So I joined the Peace Corps.
Oh, okay.
Wow,
geez.
yeah.
You didn't mention that to me the first time we met.
I just went and wanted to be independent and learn because the Vietnamese culture are very sheltered. And living here and hearing all the story from my college professor, who's also the Peace Corps, and so he inspired me. So I joined and I went to Thailand. I taught for a year English there and then came back, started teaching. And I got into teaching for the last 15 years before I left and became the loan officers and then got my license and help her out and doing real estate and trying to venture out into many other things. I said that's endless opportunity here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Our that goal for him, for us, he said that I risked my life to come to America for freedom and for your education. So I don't care what your hobbies are, what you want to do when you grow up. I need you all three to go to school, go to college, get a 4 years degree minimum. I would like for every one of you get a master, and I'll be really happy if you each get a PhD. But everybody needs to have a 4 years college degree, and it could be at UF, it could be at any other university, at any degree you want. But that's what I need from you as a payback, sort of like pay me back. This is how you pay me back for my love and care. Mm-hmm. And then you can go on and do whatever you wanted to do.
Yeah.
I think for us to go to UF, because first my brother, he joined the engineering program in UF, right? I wanted to go to Michigan, but then he said that's too far. He would not want me to go any farther than like an hour away. Mm-hmm. So he said, since your brother down at UF, why don't you go there? Okay. So that's how I end up at UF, and so is she. So we all came there because we end up getting an apartment together. So technically, you have a family away from family. Yeah. You're not independent at all, Yeah.
No, but it was nice because on the weekend, we can drive back home and get a box of food, and then, or they would deliver it to us if we don't come back. Like, if we stay down there for a month, my mom would go and cook and pack all the food and have my dad drive out there and making sure we're okay. And so food delivery.
Okay. So you guys graduated from UF, I'm assuming early 2000s, roughly around that time?
Of 2003.
2003, okay. 2001?
3.
She hung out and waited on me.
Oh, okay. Well, that's nice of you.
I changed majors so many times. Like anything that I wanted to do, my dad say no. So I took all the classes and he said no. Until finally he said, even trying to be a teacher, he said no. My dream was to be a photographer for the National Geography.
Okay.
I wanted to travel. I wanted to take pictures and all that stuff. I took all the classes and they say, no, that has no class. you know, and you don't have a stable income, you know, you need to be a doctor, be this, be that. And so I said, okay, fine, I'll take accounting classes then. So I took all the accounting classes, business classes in high school. And then when I got to college, I broke down as business law. I could not cut through business law, you know. Okay. And so I told him, so no, I cannot be an accountant. My granddad, his father was an accountant in Vietnam. So he said, okay, fine, you can follow granddad's footstep, right? And I said, no, I
didn't know Dad told you no so many times because he didn't care about what I took.
He told me no so many times to the point that I graduated with an education degree. He told me not to become a teacher. I said, don't come home and cry that I told you so, kind of thing.
Because teacher don't make any money.
Yes. I said, fine, let me do it. Let me try. I think this is what I want. So I changed like 3 times before I decided what I wanted to do.
We're 2 years apart, by the way. She's 2 years older than me. She does everything 2 years. She graduated high school 2 years. But then on college graduation time, was it yours in the morning and mine afternoon? Yeah. We graduate on the same day.
Okay. Yeah.
She's graduated in the morning and I graduated in the afternoon. I'm the class of business, finance, and she's education. And everyone was like, wait, hold on. So who's smarter? She said, no, I'm smart. I just changed my major and weigh on her because I don't want her to be alone in college, you know?
My student loan was a lot higher than her because I stayed so long.
I don't have any more student loan because I just want to hurry up and get done with school and then get out and get a real job, you know? So,
but so tell the story. You know, I love your entrepreneurial background. Obviously, as kids, you're hustling, selling stuff, and everything. But you kind of started working. Like, what was like your first jobs after you graduated with your bachelor's?
Sure. So while she was traveling the world, learning, you know, figure out what she want to do when she grow up, she was in Thailand. After we graduated, 2003. Right after graduation, I went and interviews for a couple of corporate Americas. Back then, Sears was pretty big, dealers and Walgreens.
Okay.
I also interviewed with CVS and Rite Aid. And everyone basically offered me a job, but I took a job with Walgreens as an assistant manager, and I stayed in Jacksonville. I started my real job here in Jacksonville as an assistant manager at Walgreens in 2003. And a year, maybe 2 years later, I was able to help finance our first home with my dad. Because we weren't able to buy the house back then because how regulation was very difficult. And my dad being very worried about everything, he does not own a credit card. Like if you pull him up, he has no credit history. Everything is cash. And because of that, even though he has a ton of money in the bank, he cannot qualify for a mortgage. So I, with my, 2 credit cards on file with a steady job, I had to be his co-signer. Otherwise, we could have not bought our first home, which we're still living in right now, 30 years later.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. So you Walgreens and you're there for what?
10 years.
10 years. Okay.
10 years.
Okay. So, when did I'm sure you're in that field, learning other skills. When did the entrepreneurial bug really start kicking in?
So of course, I got married after I finished, graduated, and we got married. My husband at the time and I opened a nail salon.
What year was this?
2006.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So I was working Walgreens and helping running the business. For
awesome.
10 years.
10 years. Okay.
Yes. So
what side of town?
We actually went toward Gainesville in a small town there and opened a shop there.
Okay.
Because there's no competition there.
Gotcha.
So
now, I didn't tell you this before, but my youngest daughter loves doing nails.
Yeah.
She's in 8th grade.
Okay.
And she does all her friends' nails. She charges like $10 or $20.
Oh, good for her.
But extremely skilled at it. Very artistic. Yeah. So one day she might want to open up her own nail salon. I tell her to take pictures and
yes.
Take pictures and start marketing it. Yes. I don't know if that's what she wants to do, but she's very, very talented.
Well,
at it.
Vietnamese who own the nail industry now, right?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. You know the history of the nail business, right?
Yeah. I saw a YouTube video about California. like an actress.
Yes.
Was helping the
Tipping, Mary
refugees.
Tipping, yes.
Yeah,
She
yeah,
trying
that's
to
a great
help the
story.
refugees, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But we started with nothing and now it's in the billions of dollar industry.
Yeah.
We manufacture furnitures, nails, and the technology and 3D printing. Everything is now owned and developed and everything by the Vietnamese people.
Yeah,
so
that's awesome.
But yes, I with my husband at the time and we ran a full salon, and then 10 years later, after we divorced, we sold the business,
Okay.
and now I transitioned into sales for 10 years now. Yeah.
So how did you transition into real estate? Was that your
estate.
first sales thing, or was there something before that?
So I remember trying to help my dad buy our first home.
Mhm.
And, I was a college graduate now, so I supposed to know English very well, right? Being English is my second language. I had no knowledge of all the lingos, what escrow means, what appraisal means, all of that. So I felt so stupid. I was like, there's no way I could be this stupid because I don't understand anything and I don't know any real estate law. I just did exactly what the agent say. And I was so scared. And so was my dad. And, just imagine it was over 100. It was like $140,000 back 30 years ago, was a lot of money.
Yeah.
So we were like, what are we signing? And I said, Dad, I'm just translating as much as I can to you. And it was this much of paperwork back in the day at the closing table. So I say, I have to go learn real estate. And I took the class, but I never went and actually worked. And so the class kind of expired.
Okay.
And then we had to crash in 2008. But by 2013, I see the market started to go back. And I, say, you know what? Now I think is the time. And I'm going to go learn this. And my goal is to help all the first-time home buyers to feel as comfortable as possible when they go into signing the paperwork and understanding the every steps process of owning a home.
Yeah.
And so that's how I even I got venture out into real estate.
Okay. So you were with a bigger broker when you first started.
Yes.
It's a great thing to do. You get all their training, but it's more like a corporate job, right? Because they have a lot of requirements. But it's good training. You help build your skills. How many years were you eventually got your broker's associate license and then you got your your brokerage. So tell that story from first getting your license, working for another brokerage to then when you launched Golden Pen.
So 2019, I officially a full-time license and worked with a local office here. And within 2 years, I learned as much as I could. But because of the restrictions they have for agents, because they are so big and they set restriction area where you can sell and buy. If you go outside that restriction, you have to send your customer to somebody else.
Right, yeah.
And I had to refer my personal property to somebody else, and I ended up having to do all the work. But so I was like, well, why am I doing this? Why can't I be on my own? And so right after I finished my 2 years as a regular agent, you can qualify to take a broker class and get your license.
Oh, I know all about that.
Yes. So I said,
that's what I did.
I wanted to be my own boss, my true own boss, right?
Yep.
So I went to the class, I got my broker license, and I worked for another maybe 9 months or a year with another small broker. But then that's when I learned all the things that not to do when you become a broker.
Yeah.
And I said, you know what, I'm going to open my own office so I can actually do all the things I wanted to do. Simultaneously, I have the passion to share my knowledge and teach people. So I say, well, maybe I should look into becoming an instructor.
Okay. Yeah.
So I apply, and because I am already a broker and with my finance degree, they actually say, yeah, you can become an instructor.
Awesome.
And so I am now a licensed broker and an instructor. I can teach pre-licensing for people to get their license and also their broker license. If anyone who want to get their broker license.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Now tell me all about Golden Pen Realty.
Yes.
Tell me all about Golden Pen. Tell promote. I want tell the audience.
Golden Pen Realty is formed in 2019, and then 2020 was COVID. So we didn't really have much time to market and work with many customers. But started in 2021, many of our customers started to recognize the brand and also recognize Tina Pham because we have been working basically all the customers locally, but more importantly, the out-of-town customers. That right after COVID, you remember how people realized that Florida is like another country with all the freedom.
Yeah, it's we're the land of the free.
Yes. So we actually took that to our advantage. So when we did any live streaming during 2020, like we went to all the open houses, we promote all the new communities. We live stream and we say, hey guys, guess where I'm at? Jacksonville, Florida. So that's where we attracted a lot of our customers from out of town to learn more about Jacksonville, because no one really know Jacksonville that well, especially the Vietnamese communities in other part of the country, right? Yeah. So Golden Pen Realty is owned and operated by me, the first Vietnamese broker in North Florida. So I'm quite proud that I'm the first to open an office.
That's a great designation.
Yeah. So we serve residential.
Am I the first half Vietnamese broker owner in North Florida?
Yes.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, you are half. We can partner up and we can do some more good.
1.5.
Average it out. So we started doing just a regular sale and buy residential. We had many buyers that came to me directly because of the language barrier, and I guess because of my perfect personality. Yes. But because we had a fan base on Facebook and they get to see Jacksonville. So they knew me way even before they call me. So some of my customers call and I say, I had no idea who they are, but they say, hey, Tina, how you doing? And I could feel, how when you talk to someone, then you can feel that like they're your best friend, but like they're really close to you. Mm-hmm. So many of my customers are like that. So thank you to you guys so much for that. But we're very proud of the level of service that we provide. If something go wrong, I cannot go to sleep until I take care of it. And when we go to closing, then I can breathe. But I usually don't breathe when the deal is still in transaction.
Yeah, right.
So
until that money's wired at closing, then that's 100% locked in and done. Yes.
Yeah.
So how'd you get like Tracy? Like, did you say, hey, go get your mortgage license? Like, we'll hit it from both sides. How did you?
Let me say one short thing, and then you can share your side of the story. So we already know being a teacher, you can never make any money, right? So she had to do that for 15 years. And when our dad was really sick, she was driving back and forth. She was actually North Carolina, U.S.
North, South Carolina.
Yeah, North and South Carolina. She was living. So she was still a teacher there. I say, well, come back home, work with me with Golden Pen Realty, because at then it was just me and my brother. So I said, you can come and join us. You can be a realtor or you can be a mortgage broker to help, because I have so many customers who speak Vietnamese that I have to help translate for the application and the application for the mortgage.
Yeah.
So I didn't have time. So she moved back home, but she still became a teacher. She never really was a mortgage broker yet until 5 years. And then she see how stressful that job was and other, reasons. So she finally said, okay, I'll go and get my mortgage broker license, and then join us and became our in-house lender.
Okay.
So now you can go.
I was so devoted to teaching. Teaching was my life. I love it so much. I sure did. I loved it, even though I did not make any money. To be honest with you, by the end of the month, if I could save $200, I was happy.
Wow. Yeah.
Okay.
You know what's sad? Everyone knows teachers don't make money. It's like everyone says it.
Yeah.
It's
And
like such a shame that that's the way it
saying
is.
that, oh, you have a whole 2 months of summer off, you have Thanksgiving, you have Christmas, you have spring break, all that holidays, you are having a blessed life kind of thing. I say, oh, you don't know. I'll be busting my behind at a nail salon on those weekends, on those holidays, just to have extra cash for my own spending. But anyway, I went to South Carolina to get my master's degrees. And back then, my dad was sick. So I was driving back and forth. I was teaching and went to school up there.
And USC?
No, I didn't go to USC. I went to Webster University up there and teaching because I had a job. So I was teaching up there too. I was trying to get out of Jacksonville just so that I can get a promotion. Yeah. So I left here and moved to South Carolina, Columbia. And I was teaching at a middle school there and went to school at the same time for my master in human resource and management. And when I got into all the business law and labor law and finance and all that, I got so excited. I was like, that's it. You know, but I still didn't want to quit. I was trying to get into doing something law related.
Yeah.
But my dad was sick, so I had to drive back and forth all the time to help take care of him. And when he passed, and now that our family got smaller, so I told her, I said, okay, I'm coming home.
Yeah.
And it was a transition to get into a different job, so easier to get back into teaching again, just to make a living first. So I went back to teaching, just transfer back here. And then Irma hit, you know, and all
you
of
were there
that.
at Irma, right?
Yeah.
Yep. And after I started teaching for a year, and I have that love-hate relationship with teaching. You know, after the summer, you spend 2 months of summer at home, you start missing everybody like crazy. And then school start back up. And after 3 months, you say, that's it, I quit. Right. You know, so after I done that year back here, I told her, I said, that's it, I'm getting out. Is there something for me to do? I think I'm ready now. She telling me almost every time I talk on the phone with her, just get out, help me do something. And then to the point, I said, that's it, I'm getting out. So introduce me to somebody who could help. So I started as a assistant, a mortgage loan assistant, to learn the rope and everything. And I was lucky to have some good mentor who helped me, train me and everything. And I learned so fast as a math teacher, you know, picking up policy or guidelines and numbers, figuring it out. It wasn't hard for me. Yeah. I just need some good mentor. And I did. I had really good mentor. And I said, okay, I think this is something I could do. Yeah. So I went and I say, I'm going to go get my license and start doing it. And ever since, she handed me the torch of all the translation and all the stress from the get-go.
We love our customer, but sometimes we have to, you know, sort of like discipline them in a way, because they don't know the law, they don't know the rules, so then they think it's okay, but it's not. Like we're closing tomorrow on one of our deal that we waited for 10 months now. Oh. We asked him to put his money in, you know, every month, enough for closing. A month before closing, he dumped $50,000 in the bank.
The month of closing.
The month of closing. Yeah. So we couldn't close, you know. So we had to educate them, like, you know, you got the money, but you had to put it in, and this is a cutoff line. They just don't think it's important until the day comes. But anyway, that's another story for another podcast. So
you know, I started researching and learning some more, and I think that's what I like to do. And you know, and for us being a partner in-house for her and with our customer, I think is a big advantage, because I could help them both ways. As a licensed realtor now, I could also help and answering loan question on site. Yeah. But for her, you know, she has to refer the customer back to me to answering those loan questions. But if you know, they come to me, I can answer them both. So
we talk a lot about us for the last hour. So let's talk about you.
Oh man.
So can you please share with us more about Decode Capital, because we are very excited when we learn about you. 3 months ago?
Yeah.
And we finally met at lunch last week. And here we learning about each other businesses and what our dreams and goals are. And I am so excited. I told Tracy in the way here, I say, man, I am really excited about us knowing Scott and Decode Capital. And I'm looking forward to what we can do together. So please share with us.
Absolutely. Well, hey, I appreciate you ladies being here. I'll tell a little bit about me, but then I got some more questions as we wrap it up. So multi-service construction, real estate, and development company. So I hold a lot of licenses, general contractor, roofing contractor, real estate broker. And I say all those things and I kind of piggyback it to say, I'm really just an entrepreneur. I just love business. I was a corporate guy for 15 years. You know, obviously, you know, I mentioned my mom being from Vietnam. She really stressed going to the school, getting education, going to college. I did all that and had a successful 15-year run in corporate, made a lot of money, worked for Fortune 500s. I worked for billion-dollar companies, but I really just wanted to own my own business. I grew up in the projects. So my parents divorced when I was 8, and my mom, you know, just being from Vietnam, she didn't have a formal education. We ended up, you know, government assistance, and I kind of grew up in a place where I didn't really feel like I fit in, but I was just really into the culture of like everything that you would think in the project setting. So I was into hip hop music and you know, playing basketball, playing sports, got in a lot of fights as a kid, and I was always a good student, you know, so I had good grades, and that kind of worked to my advantage because every time I get in trouble for my mischief, I always kind of got off scot free. So my nickname is my nickname is Scot Free. So that's kind of because I got off scot free from all the trouble I should have got in. I mean, I did have to, you know, I did get in a little bit, but after so many years, I decided I was at a point in my life, and so I was in Los Angeles at the time, grew up in Maryland, and 2015 timeframe, I was like, you know what, I was doing a lot of side hustles, a lot of side businesses. I was from real estate investing. I did direct sales. I did an online magazine, did a bunch of stuff. And I was mid 30s, and I thought, man, if I'm going to go into business, you know, I got to take my shot. So I decided to make a career move back in 2015 to start what I thought was just going to be a finance operations business consulting company. Okay. Because I had worked for 4 different billion-dollar companies. I was responsible for over $2.5 billion of projects, whether it was projects that I won in government contracts or a construction management job or a healthcare. I worked in healthcare for a bit, and I worked in aerospace. So I thought with my very diverse background, I could be a consultant. And what I wanted to do was just pick up a bunch of customers to be on a retainer. You know, 8 customers, $1,000, you know, that's 6 figures a year. That's what I was originally thinking. And so to do that, to make that move, I knew living in LA probably wasn't going to be the best place to not have any guaranteed money. And my mom had moved to Jacksonville my freshman year in college in 98. So not, you know, 5 years after you guys got here. Okay. And I remember when she bought her first house, I was so proud of her. Bought her first house, Arlington, for $50,000. Just a couple of years ago, we renovated it, not flipped it, but I sold it for like, you know, 5 times as much. Yes. And helped her buy another house that she's in now. But when I made the decision to go into business full time, I moved to Jacksonville. So I left LA, quit my job, and I just picked up some clients right away. I was pretty fortunate to do that. And a couple of my customers were construction companies. So my first job out of college, I worked for a $50 billion a year company called Decode, and they built power plants. They built like nuclear power plants and all types of crazy stuff. And I didn't know anything about it. I was just good. I have a business management degree. So they put me on these $1 billion projects as like kind of as a bean counter is what they called me. But I did project controls and project finance. So I had to help these massive projects know where they're at with the budget, if we were actually going to make money or if we were losing money.
Like no more spending, right, guys? We don't have any more money.
So after doing that initially, I kind of did very well at it, and I got all these promotions, and that just kind of continued for like 15 years. but I won lots of like large contracts. So I knew how to put proposals together and build financial models. I knew how to build all these things. So some of my initial customers, when I went in as a consultant on my own, I helped them win contracts. And then I thought, why am I helping these guys win contracts? I got my construction background. I'll just go get my general contractor's license myself. And that kind of is what started the pivot of what my company, Devore Capital Contracting, is. So we do GC work, we do roofing, I do commercial real estate, do a lot of stuff. But you know, we're getting into government contracts because I used to work in government contracts. So we're looking to take this thing to $100 million year company in the next 5 years. So our four main areas are roofing, commercial and residential, development. So we buy our own land and we develop small multifamily communities, commercial real estate, and then government contracts. So those are our four main pillars.
That's nice. Yeah, it's exciting. That's a lot of focus to be on. We over on Golden Pen Realty. I haven't mentioned that, you know, doing real estate for 10 years, regular buy and sell, had gained us many investors, customers. And every time somebody from California or New York call and say, hey, we want to buy a house in Jacksonville and invest it, where do you suggest? And we would go through the whole process. I show them the house, they buy the house, and then they say, okay, now we want to rent it out. Can you manage? And I say, no, we don't have a property management company. And I don't want to just do it just, you know, because. But 3 months ago, the partner that we have been referring all of our investors to do property management for had gone out of business. So all the customer came back and say, Tina, what happened? We want you to manage our portfolio. So since then, we had formed property management, Golden Pen Property Management. Just like you had a pivot in your career where you just really didn't think it's going to happen. You never thought you're going to want to do that.
Right.
But your career kind of take you and you get to the fork and you say, okay, do I just add on to another service? Because it just happened to be in the same circle of business. So,
right. Absolutely.
So with that being said, we are now a full division. Property management is a full division. We can help customer from buying the house to take it and get it ready to put it on the market, and tenant screening, collect rents, and help with the entire process. And the investor and customer just have to sit back and collect rent. And not to brag, but within the first 30 days of launching, we signed 3 customers, and some of them were waiting on me because they knew I was opening the division. And within the first 3 weeks of having their properties on the market, we actually found a tenant, and we're signing the lease sometime next week. So
that's awesome.
I've been a little busy.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, you always got to make those pivots as entrepreneurs. You see, like everything that comes across my desk, I'm like, okay, is there money to be made there? Is that something to do? That's just the way I'm wired. So we got a few more minutes, and I want to touch on some things. I mentioned Yeonmi Park. She's a North Korean deflect. She wrote a couple phenomenal books, and her recent book was just talking about, you know, living in communist North Korea and being free as an American. And, you know, just you guys growing up in communist Vietnam and then being here in America, like share any thoughts on just the freedom of America and the opportunities we have here, just encouraging, you know, others who are either entrepreneurs or on the fence of, you know, taking advantage of everything, because not everyone has what we have here in America.
I would say it first, and then Tracy can add in what her thoughts are. We are so blessed every day. You know, I say thank you to my dad and to God for the opportunity and the courage that my dad had to risk his life so that we can have this life here. Yes, I know, you know, some of the people who haven't lived in another country, especially a third world governed by the communist government, know what the opportunities that you guys have it here until you actually live in that country. For 6 months and see. But the freedom, speech, opportunities is endless. It's like the sky is the limit here.
Yeah.
You can do, be, and have anything you want. You just have to go out there and earn it and work for it. And then there's people out there to support you, to help you. There's business partner, government assistant, all these organizations that willing to help you to be free financially. If you just put in the time and not, because we still have family in Vietnam to this point who we connected on Facebook and other platforms, but they watch our live and they just envy and they just say, I wish, we have half of what you have here in Vietnam. And the opportunities, like even if we decided tomorrow we don't want to do all of this, we can cook pho and then put it on a food truck and then just sell it. People still, we have so many opportunities is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You just have to take advantage of that. So that's how I feel about,
for sure,
living here in America. And I'm always thankful every day.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I feel the same way. Also, it's also based on how driven you are internally. Some people are not, we cannot blame that they're not self-driven because they don't know where to start. Like us, we are self-driven, so we are out there searching, like you and I. We are searching for a solution, an answer for our mind, what we need, what we want. We know what we want, and we go out looking. But there are people, technically, who don't even know what they want.
Yeah.
And they don't know where to start to begin with. So for me, as a teacher in me, I always wanted to start some sort of a program just to brainstorm, help them brainstorm of what they wanted to do, and then have a roadmap. Okay, this is what you want, and this is where you're going to start, and here's the person you're going to contact.
Yeah.
And that is kind of thing our community, especially the Vietnamese community here, would need. Because I have the generation like us, we are 1.5 generation that live here. And we get comfortable if we get to college. If we get to go to college, we have a degree. And we get comfortable with getting a monthly paycheck, a salary. But not many go into entrepreneur and start their own business because they're afraid first of the risk, the investment, the capital, where to get the funding, where to start, how to apply for a business license, things like that, who to ask for help.
Yeah.
So if we could get involved in that and help them say, okay, like a consultant, like help them what you want to do and hear what you need to do, showing them that. And for the people out there, if you love what you do, just start. Put that seed in your head and start planting it and brainstorm. And then one step at a time, one day at a time, you eventually get there. Don't be so afraid. Like me, I was afraid to step out into sales and start doing things. And now with her, I tag along with her for the past 5 years, going to real estate meeting and all that stuff. Now I say, okay, I can do this myself.
One other thing I want to mention to the reason why I am so grateful is the opportunities. But with that being said, I'm not sure if we mentioned this to you at lunch, but in 2019, we also formed a nonprofit organization. We call it the Family Pantry to help the underserved students and families in the local communities with back to school supplies and also food, non-perishable items. So for the last 2 years, we started the project and we asked for donation and we fundraised a few $1,000s every August to buy the supply, pack it, and then went and drop off to some of the school. And this past back to school, we were able to deliver over 130 backpacks with supply in it to 6 schools around Jacksonville, the really needed school on the north side of town and the west side of town. And our goal is to continue this work and actually grow it. My vision for that is next year we would like to reach out and get some of the partners to help us build a mentorship program.
Nice.
To help not just the back to school, but we would like to also teach these young children entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
Maybe like a summer camp.
Mm-hmm.
And then also for the immigrant students who came here like us back in the day, who didn't know where to turn or what is out there. Teaching them just life skill, business skill, how to write a resume, how to shake a hand when you go for a job interview and stuff like that. So that is our passion to do and support the community. So look for our Family Pantry project.
Family Pantry, that's the name of it. Yeah, yes. Absolutely. Do you have a way to promote it, like a website or anything?
We have Facebook's page, our Facebook page called Family Pantry Inc. You can search it. It should somehow link to our Golden Pen Realty and Golden Pen Property Management websites. And on there, every time we do something, we live stream or we post pictures so everyone can follow along. But we are very excited about that.